Brian, will you lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance, please?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you.
I was thinking about taking a knee.
All right, visiting Rotarians, where are you? Sophie, here, yes.
Sophie, President of North Bay Rotary.
All right, welcome. Visiting Rotarians. How about guest Rotarians? Aha, all right, we'll get back to them. Hey, welcome. Any other guests today?
I have our speakers for our program, Chuck and Mary Lou Goodwin and Michelle Forys.
Oh, sorry. Cynthia Perez?
Crystal Perez.
Crystal Perez, yes. From Arcata Police Department. Direction, what is it again?
Juvenile Diversion Counselor.
Juvenile Diversion Counselor. Welcome. All right. Sojourning Sunrisers. I know we were dark, so I'm sure we did some traveling. Does anyone want to talk about it first? Anyone go anywhere? And we're just sitting around here.
I went somewhere, Your Excellency. I'm going to stand up here just so, because this embodied voice behind the camera is probably preferable to people actually looking at the video. But I didn't travel over Labor Day weekend, but the weekend before, I went home. I went to Paradise, which is not my home. It's a long story. I'll put that on a video and that'll bore you to tears. But I was raised and graduated from Paradise High School, and there was the current band director there decided to get all the old band people together that he could and have a band reunion. And so there were about
how can you do it if it's
30
banned?
people.
How can you do it if it's banned? But
Let me put the camera on you, buddy. Anyway, there were about 30 to 40 people. It was an 80 plus member band that showed up to play at the first Paradise High School game of the season. That was a lot of fun. I was surprised that I was the oldest person there, including the faculty. So I was almost as old as the buildings, but not quite. So we did that. Shelley and I went up there, and the next day we got a chance to visit with my elementary school principal, Ellis Harms, who's now 91, and his lovely wife Arlene. And we just popped in for a quick visit, and 3 hours later we were gone. But they're just delightful. And then we went and down to my sister's home in Pollock Pines, and we got to meet my youngest grandniece, and we played with her and with my grandnephew and my niece and her partner. So that was a lot of fun. So it was a full weekend, and then I had to have a 3-day weekend to kind of rest up.
Thanks, Nick. That sounds awesome. Any other travelers?
I went to Burning Man.
I saw that. Yeah.
I sound like it too. No, actually the dust didn't bother me as bad as coming home. The smoke, I think maybe I was sensitive, but it's definitely hard to explain, hard knows. Like the art is just, I never even saw all the art. Sometimes I see pictures of stuff that were like, I didn't even see that. But it's amazing what people can put together in a really short period of time when they work together, and I guess we know that here too. So it's great.
All right. Did you see Howard there?
No, I didn't.
No, Captain. Oh, go ahead, Howard.
I would like to, I'm proud to report that my daughter has continued the family tradition. And this is her 3rd year at Burning Man. She had a great time.
All right.
There were a lot of families there. Yeah, that's amazing.
right. Actually, Susan, I saw a while back you went skydiving, didn't you?
I did.
All right. Tell us about that.
Well, my stepson and I were, it sounds kind of maudlin, but it was the first anniversary of my husband's death, and we wanted to do something that was different and kind of take us out of ourselves. And so he said, skydiving. And I kind of blithely said, sure. And then as we got in this rickety, teeny, tiny plane with strange men strapped to our backs, it felt a little different. So it was the scariest part probably was watching. So we went to 12,000 feet. And the scariest part was watching my stepson's little skinny legs going out of the plane and him putting both of his feet on this little thing of metal, and then he was just gone. and then I kind of wanted to say, I don't want to do this. And I sort of couldn't, because I thought if he dies on the way down and I didn't go, then I'm going to be in a lot of trouble. So actually, it was one moment of absolute terror as you kind of, because you don't stand up and leap out like they do in the movies. You sit on the edge of the plane, and then the plane driver tips, and you just and the guy behind you pushes you forward. And so that was the moment of terror. But then, and then you're falling like super fast, and nobody told me I would get dreadlocks because I'm going so fast. I didn't know to tie my hair back, so I looked beautiful when I arrived. At any rate, once they deploy what they call the drogue, you can kind of put your arms out and fly, and that was fabulous. It was a really amazing experience, which I do not wish to repeat again.
All right, we had a Rise event. We had the Kevin Ebbert Memorial Run, and a couple Rotarians showed up for that, which was a great time. We also had a fellowship event out at the racetrack. Let's see, Lisa, you want to say anything about that? It was a good time. Chris?
It was great. It was, we didn't win any money, but it was just a great gathering.
Yeah, it was a fun time.
Yeah.
We donated some money to the horses going around in circles and stuff. Had a couple beers. It was just a good time.
Yeah, it was a fun day. And the chair, we'll talk about the chair some other time.
Oh, the chair was awesome.
The chair is awesome. Moving on, anniversaries. Randy, I saw you here. Did you and Lisa have an anniversary?
Yes.
33.
Let me guess. Larapin.
All right, Ian, yeah.
24 and not to be one-ups, Larapin.
All right, there's a theme here. Charlie's not here today. Carol, you and Steve had an
Yeah,
anniversary.
we had an anniversary. We did go to Patrick's Point State Park at Palmer's Point. We had a picnic with silverware and glasses and fancy beer right where we got married out there. So it was really nice. It was lovely.
Birthdays. Laura, I saw you here.
Yes.
Yes, what'd you do for your birthday?
Oh, I went to San Francisco and all my kids came and we ate and drank profusely. Had a great time.
Happy birthday.
Thank you.
And Steve?
Well, mine is actually on 8/31. I don't know why the roster always has the incorrect date for my anniversary and the wrong date for my birthday, and I correct it every year. I might as well just change it to whatever other things. But we did what my favorite thing is that we've done actually 3 times since Izzy's arrived, and that is we go out to the beach and make a fire and play at the beach and roast hot dogs and stuff.
Nice.
We did that last Thursday and this Wednesday, and the week before that we did it also, didn't we? We seemed to go to the beach. That was on, and Izzy said that was on her her bucket list of coming here was to go to the beach, and have a beach fire. It's happened 3 times in 3 years.
Bacon
There you
juice.
go. All right, Dick, do you want to lead us in? Oh,
I also had a birthday.
You had a birthday.
Oh, yeah.
I
So you lost her. All right.
So my birthday was on the 27th of August, and I got to take a CPA exam 2 days before my birthday, so that was really exciting.
Oh man, that makes us all
Oh
jealous.
yeah. And then everybody that knows me knows I hate camping, so we went camping. But it was really fun because we took my boyfriend, Jesus' Dotson, we took it all the way to Bend. And we went camping with a bunch of our Dotson friends. So there was probably about 20 other Dotsons there. The car, not like a dog. So, yeah, so and that, it was really fun. So, yeah, anyway, good fun.
Can you give us happy birthday?
Certainly. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Rotarians. Happy birthday to you.
All right, thank you. Upcoming events, we have this weekend, this Sunday, the Out of the Darkness Walks. I sent out an email last night. Matt, do you know anything with the volunteers? I sent
volunteers at say 8:15, 8:30.
8:15.
And rumor has it that there will be some delicious coffee from Charlie Jordan's coffee company. They're early, so just some help to set up, and it won't take more than 15, 20 minutes. We have lots of help. Then the event kind of gets going at 9, and then Romy knows about the team. Where's Romy? Is Romy here?
She was a second ago. I think it's
Yeah, I don't know where Romy is. But she does have a team. She's the head of the Rotary team.
Okay, yeah. Yeah, so if you can, please show up. I'll be there, and we'll put it together. So, also we have a event coming up, the painting the Manila Community Center. Carol, do you want to talk a little bit about
yes,
that?
please. We need crew. Yay! Finally, we are painting the newly constructed Manila Resource Center, and it's out at the community center. If you know where that is, you can go out to the beach at 1611 Peninsula. We'd love to have a crew of at least 8 people or so. Anybody interested in coming and painting? Yes, yes. All right, Lauren, wonderful. And Scott has been great about getting the paint supplies and everything together, so we can make this thing happen. So we have a double hitter. That's one weekend, and then the following weekend is Adopt a Highway on September 23rd. Meet out at the Nature Center, and it's been a while, so the highway needs us. And I'd love to see if we could get some extra people coming out. If we have enough people, we'll head a crew over by Liscombe Slough. Remember him and Ted who came to talk to us, and we could do a little help cleaning up there as well. Okay?
Great, yeah, absolutely. Thank you, Carol. And after that, we have the Coffee Cakewalk coming up. Rachel couldn't be here today. She'll give us an update on the progress there. And then after that, we have the Walk to End Alzheimer's. So a bunch of things in the near future. We have a Rotaract announcement. Sophie, do you want to take the stand?
Okay, so I have an exciting announcement. I haven't been this excited in a long time. I'm going to India with Rotaplast. I'm going to be going the weekend after Thanksgiving for 2 weeks, and I'm going to be doing patient transport, so moving patients between the waiting room and the operating room, and then the post-op. I'll be like I'll also get to play with the kids when they come out of the surgery, so I'm going to be taking some toys, like some coloring books and stuffed animals. So yeah, I can't wait. I've always loved India. It's always, I don't know, I've always wanted to go, so I'm excited.
All right, Izzy, you want to come up and tell us about your last couple weeks now?
Yeah. Last weekend, my friend from Austria, who is also on exchange in California, but in another Rotary district, she came with her family. She lives in Benicia. This is like 45 minutes from San Francisco. And she and her family came visit me, and it was awesome. We went to the beach, like this is Malena to me. And we went to Fern Canyon. It's an awesome hike. It's amazing. And yeah, we slept by a different family, which are friends from her host family that live that also live in Arcata. And these are the wonderful kids down here. Yeah, Fern Canyon, it's amazing. And we also went to the Redwood Park. And because there was so much smoke, I had a mask. Yeah, I had to wear a mask because I reacted to it. And Nick, where's Nick? Yeah, he took me and my host sister to the fair, and it was awesome. We played a lot and won a lot of things, as you can see. We also went on awesome rides, and it was a great day. Yeah, and we went to the beach, and unfortunately I have so much homework that I had to do homework on the beach.
It has been smoked.
Smoked. Rauch.
Out.
Rauch.
I can't say that. That's right. Thank you. All right. Up next, Alexandra. Do you want to take the stand?
Hi. So right now, Sunday we have a fun run that we're working with the Rotary to do, and we have a lot of members that are joining. It was cool to see like so many freshmen and like new members that are really interested and want to participate. And we also had a club fair, and Finn and another one of our cabinet members was able to sit and kind of like represent, interact. We also are doing a presidential citation, so we're going to get recognized for all the cool stuff that we're doing, and Finn's also is going to head that, I think. So first we're going to work on polio. We're going to do some kind of change drive, I think, like where we can have people get their pinkies painted purple for like 50 cents or something, whatever like they want to give, and give out like kind of like pamphlets or something like that to show how important it really is. So we're doing it right now. Thank you.
Great. And, so, without further ado, okay, I've got slides here, so yeah, go for it.
All right, so we also went to RYLA this year, and we kind of wanted to show you guys and like thank you for sponsoring us and show you what opportunities we got to have while we were there. So I'm Alex. I'm Marley.
I'm Finn.
Yeah. So we can start with so we had cabins. We were all in different cabins. And then we also had this thing called grab bag. And grab bags were, I was in leadership forum. So I'm down there. And a girl from our group who's actually really sick right now, but she was also in leadership forum with me. And we basically wrote like a pamphlet about like how to be a leader. And I wrote a piece on privilege. And it was really cool to like get to meet people from like all different kind of like backgrounds that all had like really common goals and all were really driven, and see how they felt about leadership and how like we impact each other. And then you were in...
Yeah, I was in yearbook, and basically grab bags were how we got picked between them. We'd like fill out like a little like survey, like saying like our interests and our dislikes, and then based on that they put us into different grab bags. So like I was in yearbook because I don't know, I guess I like write it or something. But I really liked it. I thought the people in my group, I love them. They're just awesome people. So it's fun.
Oh, but yeah, basically they're just clubs that you're assigned to based on your interests. I was in public speaking and debate, which we learned a variety of different kind of public speaking tools, and we'd give a few public speeches to kind of the overall RYLA group, which is about 50 kids, a couple nights, and we would have several debates, which I won the last one with my team. I mean, that's pretty much just all to say about it.
We also, there was this back one right here. None of us are in this, but this was skits, and they took over like our campfire that we had at the end of every night, and they got to lead it, which was cool to see. Like friends we were making like have to stand up and like do funny jokes and stuff like that. And I think there was another. Journalism, yeah. So also our yearbook, we kind of waited on presenting because we were expecting to get our yearbook, which had like all of our pictures and everything we wrote and all this stuff, and we still don't know. We don't really know where it is. So we put together something else instead. Thanks, Riley. And then guest speakers. The two pictures on the right side are actually from our career night. So we had a career night, and there was a business owner, there was a lawyer, a chiropractor, a winemaker, and just like all these different kind of jobs that maybe we were looking towards in the future. And we got to go and have really in-depth conversations with them and just like get to know their professions. And then also every day for 3 hours, we had one presenter that talked to us about, we had leadership one day, we had bullying prevention one day, and we also had
social media.
Oh yeah, social media. How to like utilize social media in a positive way. There was a few other ones. It was just, and those were like the main thing that we did during the day because it took so much time. It took up so much of our time. But it was really cool to see and learn from people that like I've never before. I actually met him at the UCLA conference. That's why I put that one up because I remember him. But those are the starting speakers.
Sports. So there was a volleyball net, and there were also basketball courts. So, and there was also both a volleyball tournament and a basketball tournament. So it was like another cool way for everyone to meet more new people. And my volleyball team is right there. We got to the championships, but we lost to the counselors, but that's fine because they win every single year, so I get it. And then I wasn't in basketball, but I watched it, and it looked fun. I didn't win one, but yeah, it was fun.
Not only improving on our more intellectual sides and physical sides, but we also had quite a little creative section around too. Every cabin had a certain skit that they would practice on, about 45 minutes each day. A certain thing that they would kind of rehearse themselves. They would make themselves and they would act themselves. And it was just a little self-thing. Which is interesting is also my cabin won this little skit thing. So there was multiple, up in the top left corner, we had a superhero slam rap poetry battle. And other ones were singing different songs and performing little dance routines and improving own, it's very hard to describe some of them, but they were all very original and it's very enjoyable. Every night we would kind of gather up in a small little hot boxcar and we would go over different speaking, different skits, and we'd always have a new and interesting, enlightening activity. Just one of them.
So actually after RYLA, what was really cool is that we made so many relationships with people that were there and so many friendships that like I honestly wasn't really expecting. But we've had a few meetups after. There was a girl who actually is from Humboldt County. I think she goes to Academy of the Redwoods, and she had a birthday party. And a lot of people were from the Santa Rosa area, so we went. A lot of us went down there and went to the trampoline park and like got to hang out and like have a little reunion. And then Marley and I with another girl who actually, she couldn't come from our group, and then two girls from Fortuna High met up and went to Willow Creek for a few days. Here's some pictures from our meetups. It was really cool to still stay connected. There's still like group messages, people messaging them all the time. It's like really cool people that you can go to like, whenever you need anything, and they'll give you advice because they're all like so similar to you. So this is just kind of like our thank you slide. We also have a video to show that our counselors made for us, but we just wanted to like sum up and say like really thank you because it was such an amazing experience, and personally like I can't wait to share it with the juniors that are going to become seniors and get the opportunity this year, because so many people told us that it was great, and then we really went and we saw how great it was. And it's really something that I'm going to recommend highly because it impacted me a lot personally, and that's why
honestly, this is gonna sound really cheesy, but like I think it was one of the best experiences of my life that I've had so far. I don't know, just we were only there for a week, but like we made such strong bonds with each other, and everyone was so nice and so supportive and so friendly. And like when we all went on Friday to pack up and leave, we were all crying. It was really sad, but yeah, it was amazing. I definitely recommend it to anyone.
Well, I mean, basically continuing what I said, it's only about a week, but I was, actually, it's very surprising how close connections we made in such a short time. And, I mean, the environment was almost perfectly crafted for that, in a way. And it was just a really, it is an experience that had quite the heavy impact on quite a few people. So,
yeah.
Definitely worth it. So I wanted to thank you guys all very much.
Yeah.
Very much.
Yeah. Thank
Thank
you.
Thank you very much. Karen. Oh, Ian.
Really quick, Interactors and RYLA participants and the whole club. Next week on Wednesday the 13th, both Arcade Rotary clubs will have an information night about Rotary Youth Exchange. Students and ambassadors like Izzy here and others currently and in the past. If you know anybody who might be a great ambassador for the U.S. and for Rotary, please send them to information night next Wednesday at the Arcata High Library, 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. Thank you.
Great, and Karen, you want to introduce our guest speakers?
Hey everybody, talking to back of the room. So this morning we have three guests that are here. Michelle Forys from California State Parks, and Mary Lou and Chuck Goodwin. And I'm going to start with Mary Lou. Mary Lou is a Fortuna Garden Club member since 1972. She also has held several offices in the California Garden Club. She was club president and the Humboldt District president, Humboldt District director. She also has served as gardening and landscape design consultant. She joined the Eureka Sequoia Garden Club in 2010, and she's just finished up a 4-year term as president. And during her 4 years, she had a program called Garden Jewels, and she would have a team of club members and go out and evaluate and look at gardens and landscape designs in the city of Eureka, and then recognize people for their efforts. She's given 300 of those recognitions. Right now she's serving as the California Garden Club chair for the Stagecoach Hill Azalea project and for the Arbor Day project. And this is a property that we're going to talk about this morning. And Chuck Goodwin is here. He's husband, not brother. He's also a member of the Garden Club. He's been in the club since 2008. He just completed a 2-year term as the district director for the Humboldt, and it's under California Garden Club, so it's an organization with a few tiers. He's also the district or the state repurposing and recycling chairman. He's a former Rotary member from Eureka Club and a Paul Harris Fellow, and he served 12 years on the Eureka City Council, and he was the CEO of the Eureka Chamber of Commerce. We're going to have Mary Lou come up.
Good morning. Good morning. Many of you have been asking, where is this Stagecoach Hill Azalea Reserve? Isn't that just right around Arcata? Well, actually, no. The portion that I'm going to talk about is the 2-mile stretch of property on Highway 101. It's 40 acres, and it's 5 miles north of Trinidad. As you come up at that area, you'll see a sign that says Kane Road. It only goes to the east, and you go up the hill, and then see the big California State Park sign. Follow the arrow, go on up to the top of the hill where the parking lot is, and that's where you'll start your adventure to see the Stagecoach Hill azaleas. I couldn't find any written story about the creation of this azaleas, But I can tell you from other information that in the 1950s, the Rhododendron Society Journal contains articles by Dr. Mossman from Washington State. He talks about taking field trips each Memorial Day weekend to Humboldt County. That's 50 years worth of coming to Humboldt County to see the azaleas on Stagecoach Hill Road north of Trinidad. Some of his cuttings are in his private collection, and some of them he's given to botanical gardens. So the Stagecoach Hill azaleas, commonly known as Rhododendron occidentale, are spread out all over the western United States. Currently, a man by the name of Red Cavender lives in Oregon, and he comes down every year in the spring, but especially in the fall, because he takes the collection of seeds back to his nursery so that he can grow on the plants and to make new crosses of flowers. The story becomes more interesting when in 1980, Mrs. Milton R. Bell, the California Garden Club president, just happens to live next door to William Penn Mott, who was the director of the California State Parks, and they heard through the grapevine the 40 acres of the Stagecoach Hill was going to be subdivided and put into homes. They thought that was a terrible waste of property, and so they convinced the California Garden Clubs to have a project to raise $60,000 to pay for that property. This was accomplished, and in 1984, we had a special dedication. I must say at that time, that was when I was the Fortuna Garden Club president, and I came to the dedication of the special property, and we had a special banquet at that time as well. The property was given to the California State Parks for them to take care of. Unfortunately, since that time, little has changed. 30 hours per year was occasionally spent by the state parks trying to keep ahead of the invasive alder trees, the Sitka spruce trees, ferns, native grasses, blackberry vines, salal and ceanothus. It was just recently in 2015 that I became interested again in that piece of property and called a meeting of my friends in the California Garden Clubs, the California Native Plant Society, and the American Rhododendron Society. And we met with the California State Park employees, and they finally, reluctantly, agreed to repaint the signs, so that which hadn't been done since 1984. Spend a little bit more time cleaning the invasive and native plants, and to improve the trail. The trail in many places is about this wide on a slope, and the vegetation keeps growing and growing, and so it's harder and harder to use the trail. Good things that happened, though, that signs for the other native plants were requested, and a pamphlet was to be designed for visitors, and you'll see that later today. No action was forthcoming on building fences, providing restrooms and water, providing any security on the 40 acres, or paving the private road to the area. And I suppose that's good because the elk and the deer and the raccoons and the cougars and the skunks still enjoy the property, and we see them occasionally when you go up there taking the trail. Just recently, in 2016, as the drought in California consumed many wildflowers throughout the state, I was afraid in particular that this area overnight could have a fire and we would lose the whole area forever. So California Garden Club members formed and adopted a Stagecoach Hill propagation project. Our idea is to create 300 plants, to have those in reserve, give those to other botanical gardens, and to have them available to replant on the reserve in case there is a destructive fire. This past year, the American Rhododendron Society, you may have seen their advertisements for their international conference and convention that was held in Eureka. And they offered actually 4 tours to the Stagecoach Hill area. Many people from all over the United States, Europe, Denmark, Sweden, were excited to see these famous azaleas. And in preparation for that, California State Parks did hire Cal Fire personnel, and they provided 600 hours of work. In addition to that, the California Garden Club people locally spent 150 hours of work. And the California State Parks Administration came through with 150 hours of work. So this place was gorgeous and beautiful last April, end of April, when all of these international visitors came to Humboldt County. I'm happy to report that in the future, we're told that the Americans with Disabilities Act has dictated that a new trail is going to be provided, one that is more level and will be, of course, handicap accessible, especially for people in wheelchairs. And I do want to just point out in conclusion that, just a reminder that it is illegal to remove any materials from any California state park unless you have a scientific permit granted by them in advance. So the Garden Club people, though we've been coming up and taking cuttings just recently, we have approval to do that. If you want to help me on my project, which is the propagation part of creating the azaleas, you can make financial donations. We have some forms here today. Those forms include opportunities for you to have a special certificate that can be given in honor or in memory of a friend or a relative. So we hope that you'll be more interested in, first of all, going up and seeing the azaleas. Very best time is always Memorial Day weekend. That's why Dr. Mossman came originally. That's when everything is in full bloom. Though it does last for almost 3 months, so up until about the 1st of September. At this point, the flowers are all gone, and there's just seed pods on the plants. They're still full, and they are not evergreen, and they will lose all of their leaves in the wintertime. So if you visit in February and March, you'll just see the blackberry vines and ferns and lots of sticks. So we hope that you'll take a trip up there sometime this year. Karen?
Well, as you heard Mary Lou, this project's been in conjunction with the California State Parks, and we have Michelle Forys here this morning. She's from San Diego, and she moved here in 1993 to come to Humboldt State University. She has a Bachelor of Science degree in Wildlife Management from 1999. She's worked for the state park since 1996, and she was first a park aide at Patrick's Point, and then a seasonal biologist, and she now is an environmental scientist since 2006. She's conducted a variety of natural resource projects within the North Coast Redwoods District. She is the Invasive Species Management Program Lead for the district and oversees rare plant species monitoring and western azalea management, and is the district's Natural Resource Volunteer Coordinator. And she's been our liaison with the state parks. Michelle?
So first off, the brochures that Mary Lou mentioned, I don't know if I just want to leave them or you want to pass them around or what. Okay, thank you for having me. Mary Lou covered a lot, but I'll cover a little bit more because we actually have 2 azalea areas in our district. So Western azaleas, just wanted to kind of give you a background on them if you're not familiar with the plant. It's the only species of azalea growing west of the Rockies. So this is just a picture of they're generally in California and Oregon. And then this is a map of California where they're generally can be found. So they're closely related to the California rhododendron, which we have throughout Humboldt County and our redwood forests. And that is an evergreen. So here's a picture of our rhododendrons. And that's evergreen versus the azaleas, as Mary Lou mentioned, are deciduous shrubs. And they require almost completely full sunlight and cannot tolerate shade. So this is just a couple shots of what the azalea bushes look like when they're blooming. And then they produce colorful, fragrant flowers. They smell really good. And like Mary Lou said, between April and July is usually the best time to view them here in Humboldt County. And these are some pictures that Mary Lou and Chuck took up at Stagecoach. Just some different shots of how beautiful they look I wish you could smell them too. So within California State Parks, the memo just came out actually 2 days ago. We officially have 280 state park units. So they could be beaches, they could be OHV parks, they could be a state park. And then within the North Coast Redwoods District, we have 21 parks. And that goes from the Oregon border to Laytonville. And we have over 170,000 acres in our district. So there's a lot of area for us to manage when it comes to natural resources. And then within those, within the district, we have two Western Azalea management areas. So you have Azalea State Reserve is usually what we call it, but Azalea State Natural Reserve, and then the Stagecoach Hill management area. So I'm going to talk a little bit about both of those. So Azalea State Reserve is located off of 101, off of North Bank Road. It's about 30 acres. It's primarily azaleas, and we also have a little section that is Sitka spruce forest. It was created in 1943, and at that time, there were native wild azaleas there, but there were also folks that had been planting in that area because they owned that property. So just like Stagecoach Hill, it was recognized way back in the 40s by state parks or whoever was around that this area should be protected. And like I said, it was created for the preservation of the Western azaleas and for folks to come in and view it. And there's two loop trails that you can see, and there's a parking lot and a little picnic area. So there are a couple picnic tables at the parking lot, and like I said, the two loop trails. Then we have Stagecoach Hill management area. So that is technically within Harry Merlot State Recreation Area. Some people don't know about that park because most people think it's part of Humboldt Lagoon State Park. So Humboldt Lagoon State Park tends to be on the west side of 101, and Harry Merlot is the east side of 101. But we just kind of manage it as one big park. So does this have a pointer? Do you know? Okay, well, so you can see on the very left side is Big Lagoon. And so that's 101, and then the purple is Cane Road, and then the yellow is the loop trail that goes through the Sitka spruce forest and the azaleas. So, as Mary Lou already gave you a history of how that area was acquired, and it's one of the most extensive stands of wild azaleas on the North Coast. And I also mentioned that there's no other state park that actually manages for azaleas except for the two up here. So within state parks, this is the two areas that we're really trying to hold on to that type of habitat. And then there's one loop trail, and like Mary Lou said, it is scheduled to be upgraded and to be completely ADA, meaning accessible, meaning wheelchairs, blind, anybody that might have a disability will be able to use this trail. We will also be improving the parking. That's a very small little parking area, but that will also be upgraded so that anyone with disabilities can use it. Unfortunately, there's no plans for bathrooms or water or anything like that. It's just not feasible with the budget that state parks gets. One thing I also wanted to mention, I should have mentioned in the other slide, is I said 170,000 acres in the district. We get about $180,000 to do all natural resource work each year. So it's $1 per acre. So, the fundraising that Mary Lou is talking about, and that that we haven't done as much management as we should in these areas, is partly due to just have to decide what is the fire we're going after next, if that makes sense. So hopefully things will change, that maybe state parks will get a little bit more of the budget in California one day. But until then, we're writing grants, doing fundraising, that sort of stuff. Let's talk a little bit about management. I also want to show you a picture that's kind of a view from the trail. So the one thing about Stagecoach that you don't get at McKinleyville at Azalea State Reserve is you get beautiful vistas of the Pacific Ocean. So it's really nice. So it's a transitional vegetation zone. So what that means is it used to be a grassland, then shrubs move in, then trees move in, and if you don't manage it, it's going to turn into Sitka spruce forest or whatever forest is around it. So it takes active management, and that means it takes, manpower, person hours, and funding, unfortunately. Wish we could do it all with volunteers, but that's not going to happen. So with grasslands, we go in and we try to just brush them, mow them, try to reduce that competing brush, and for the most part, it's not really invasive non-native plants that are the issue, it's actually native plants, so our trees moving in, and this is the only time that we actually remove native plants in state parks. That seems completely counterintuitive of what we're there to do, but because
we will lose these plants and lose this habitat type, we have to go in and remove the spruce and the alders and the cascara and the competing brush. We do try to leave ceanothus and certain other shrubs that aren't competing with the azaleas that are native, just so that it's more of a shrub land and a little bit more diversity. And so it requires continuous maintenance. Up at Azalea, or up at Stagecoach, since I began in 2000 doing natural resource work for the district, I have tried to get up there every other year, or maybe every 3 to 4 years, just when funding could be available. Definitely with Mary Lou, this has reinvigorated both me and our district that we should be taking care of this a little bit more often. I'm really having concerns though with McKinleyville, because we haven't been down there in a long time, and I'm seeing a lot of large trees moving in. So I may be shifting, if I have enough funding this year, we may be doing a little bit of work down there just to try to get some of those larger trees removed, because we did do a really good brushing last year up at Stagecoach. But we do have some burn piles we need to burn with an May crew, with an Cal Fire crew, so it does not escape, don't worry. Yes. I know it was short. I know. I don't know if that's what I thought you guys wanted to hear about, maybe, or what you really wanted me to talk about. It's just our 2 azalea areas, what it takes to manage them, and that it's a great place to go visit. They're just day use, but it's a nice short hike, but it's worth it when they're flowering. So do you guys have any questions? Yes.
I was wondering, hey Michelle, I was wondering how much of the natives at both places, how many of them do you think are native, the azaleas versus planted?
Well, up at Stagecoach, I believe they're all wild stock, that nothing, if anything has been planted there, it's been from collecting on that site, and so it's genetically still connected. Now, when it comes to McKinleyville, that one, it's newspaper articles. It's just a little bit of a file that we're trying to glean off of, because no one's really around anymore that was part of that purchase and creating that park. So it's just kind of like some were wild and some may have been planted. But back in the 30s and 40s, the plantings were probably from wild stock before there was a big nursery kind of trade and crossing and that sort of thing.
And you guys are working with CNPS, so you probably already pursued this, but could you get help via people that wanted to salvage native plants? With Caltrans, we've been trying to work on stuff, but either for mitigation work when they had to do it, or for outgrowing with some of the native plant nurseries or anything, or is that
so up on Stagecoach Hill, it's mostly coyote brush and our native bunch grass. So the native bunch grass, we just mow to the ground. It comes back every single year. It's super vigorous. And then the coyote brush too, that totally resprouts. I would love to have the time and the money to dig out that coyote brush and possibly use it as a somewhere else where we're doing restoration. But it's just not feasible to really get those pulled out unless they're small, because it's going to just leave a big hole. It's going to take a lot to get those removed. And with little bit of funding we have, we just have enough time to go in and cut it down. But definitely there is there is something that we could consider. We have had the area checked because both rhododendrons and azaleas are carriers of sudden oak death. They're not susceptible to it, but they do carry it. So we actually have had that area checked for sudden oak and got a certification from the county that we can move material from there up to our nursery at Del Norte County. So that is where our nursery person, Dan, is growing the seeds and trying to see how the cuttings are going to go. McKinleyville, that's a whole different story. There's a lot more exotics down there, and those are a lot larger trees, and coyote brush too. So it's just the species that we're dealing with are a little bit harder to remove.
Okay, so you're saying ferns and salal and stuff. And
Yeah.
We could always salvage those for planting it.
Yeah, we can talk about that for sure. Yeah. Any other questions?
Great. Yes. Before you leave, and Chuck and Mary Lou, in appreciation of you speaking today, we're going to make a donation to the Wheelchair Foundation in your name. So,
great, thank you.
Absolutely. All right, it's raffle time. Let's get that going.
Two zero 2343.
Yeah. Hey, right, all right.
There, though.
Everything's so exciting.
$5, all right. See, any announcements before we adjourn today, Karen?
I just wanted to remind everybody, we have the pamphlets about the Stagecoach Hill Azalea Reserve and the forms if you wanted to make a donation in someone's name or someone. You can put them out here. And then also, I had a couple of weeks ago left some flyers about leadership training that's occurring in Ferndale in October, on October 20th. And I just wanted to remind folks that that's available. It's a great way to get some local training without having to go spend the night in Santa Rosa or San Francisco or somewhere. And if you're interested, I don't know, we had flyers, but I guess they're all gone, but really think about taking the opportunity to come to that training.
Great, thank you, Karen. Go ahead, Scott.
I want to thank everybody for the outpouring of help. I sent out an email, we sent out an email regarding the camping trip that's going to happen tomorrow for the crew team, and I want to thank everybody who is donating stuff for that. I'll hopefully meet you all after the meeting or later on today and collect some stuff. Thank you.
Great. Ray.
Feast of the Holidays needs a co-chair, so please talk to me or Lisa.
All right, that's a big one. Any other announcements? All right, next week, Bob Rogers, our district governor, is going to be here, and it's photo day, as is tradition, so please show up and get a haircut and look nice. It'll be fun. So, with that, be so good they can't ignore you. Steve Martin, thanks for showing up today, and we'll see you all next week.